agenda. So today we're going to be looking at customizing dashboards specifically for that kind of end user role, and really it's applicable to anyone, but mainly specific to people that are using the system to manage their task lists and things like that. We're then going to look at managing tasks and to-dos and some different kind of tips and tricks around doing that, because there's some things that might not be jumping out at you as obvious features or processes that you can use to make it easier to manage your task lists and your job list as well. We're then going to look at some easy and effective ways to track time, and I'm going to show some different techniques and some different ramifications of actions you can take that can make time tracking easier or more difficult if you do things a certain way. So we'll talk about that. Probably won't spend too much time on it, but we'll no pun intended. But we'll look at some of the easy ways to do that. Then we're going to be looking at custom find routines and ways that you can generate your own reports. How you can bring a report to a meeting that shows a list of all the tasks that you have currently on the go, or all the actions that you've taken, things that are upcoming. If you need to produce some sort of report based on your time or based on the active jobs that you're currently part of or managing in some way. This webinar today, I'm thinking we're probably going to be done in about 45 minutes. So it's a bit of a lighter one, but that could fluctuate, of course, based on the questions that we get on that topic. Please do feel free to ask as many questions as you'd like. Daniel's going to be handling the questions in the background. Anything that we should be handling on screen, we will be doing so. But a lot of the questions we might answer in the background if they're simple and they don't need to be shown. And then anything that we can't answer, probably not going to be the case today, but anything that we can't answer or is kind of like off topic, we will follow with you via email after the webinar and provide you with an answer. As always, we're going to be taking a look at some skill development and resources that are available to you. I'm going to point out a few specific areas and also mention our product input form as well, as we always do. And then the next series right now we have scheduled starting on the 17th of August. So we usually take a 1-week break. We do these webinars every 2 weeks. And we usually, at the end of a series, we'll put on a 1-week break in there. So right now it's tentatively scheduled for the 17th of August. That could change, but most likely it's going to be the 17th. And a new badge will show up on the login page, and information will be released about that next series. If you do have any suggestions or requests for the series, by all means, please do feel free to email them to success@functionpoint.com. Again, that's success@functionpoint.com. We'll be happy to take those recommendations and fold them into the next webinar series. As always, please like us on Facebook, tweet us on Twitter, check out our Pinterest board, connect with us on LinkedIn. We have a great LinkedIn group going on right now. And watch our YouTube videos, which we're in the process of looking at some programs to do some new videos as well, and then do whatever it is that this thing's telling you to do. Okay, let's get started here. All right. And Daniel, actually, I should probably check in. You can see my screen, correct? I probably should have asked that earlier, but look.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I can see that. I can see we have some comments that your photo is awesome. So maybe we shouldn't change it, actually.
Well, what can I say? I'm really good at taking selfies.
Okay. All right. So let's get started. So a few things I do want to mention. When you log into the system, the first thing you see in your dashboard, well, the first thing you're going to see no matter where you are, up at the very top right is a question mark. So you're going to see that question mark. There's a few areas here I'd like to point out. One is, of course, contact support. So if you have any bugs or you see, you're experiencing something that is different than what you think you should be experiencing, you can contact support very easily through that. There's also the feature request portal. I'm going to right-click this and open it in a new tab. And in fact, I think it would do that anyways. But this is the AHA portal. Now, you do need to create a login to this, and it's different than your system login. So it'll be your email address and password. You're going to want to sign up if you haven't done that already. You can submit requests for feature development through the feature request portal. There's also the community forum, the webinars page, where you'll find links to the upcoming webinars and recordings of the old webinars. And you'll also find the training site. And one thing I want to point out here is if you go to the training site, you're going to find some areas that are useful. One is the Prime program. Now, one thing I want to point out specifically there is if you go into the FP University for Prime users, this is where you have some self-guided training programs. And there is a self-guided training program for the creative team. So it'll be applicable to this webinar today. When you select that, it's going to ask you to register, and it's a pretty straightforward program. It's mostly basic user stuff, but very useful, helpful. There's like a quiz in it and to help test your knowledge. So I recommend checking that out. There's also self-guided self-guided training by role. So this allows you to see information by role. So there's a lot of designer, account manager. There's a lot of good info there. So I recommend exploring that training site. A lot of good stuff to check out. So let's go ahead and jump in. So okay, so what we're looking at right now is the default dashboard of the system. So it's the first screen that you're going to see when you log in. This is the default dashboard for every new user, and what we're seeing is our timesheets, our jobs, our message board or pin notes, and our tasks and to-dos. Now this default dashboard is really meant for individuals to be able to quickly track time against the jobs that they're working on and the tasks that are assigned to them without having to jump around a bunch of different screens in the system. And we're going to take a look at this and some of the options around this, but the first thing in our agenda is customizing dashboards. So if I want to change what I'm seeing here, adjust it, add more information or less, up at the top, in the same bars, that little question mark, you are going to see a little speedometer, and here you'll have the option to customize dashboards. Takes you through a 4-step process. The default is to create a new dashboard, so it's highlighted. We just give it a name. So I'm going to call this. Let's call it creative. And you can then choose a layout. So now there are some templates, but you can choose a layout structure. And really, what I want to show here, and there's a few different things you can kind of play with, mess around with a little bit. But what I want to show mainly is the difference between the amount of data you'll have access to, depending on the amount of screen real estate that you give to a certain area, a certain type of information. So in order to show that off, I'm going to choose a layout style like this one. So I'm going to have a 2-box panel up at the top left, a single box panel at the top right, and then the triple taking up the entire bottom. At the top left, I'm going to choose jobs. The top right, I'm going to choose a task time summary. So I'm going to choose task time summary. And then at the bottom, I'm going to choose tasks and to-dos. So once I've chosen my content, I can, of course, save and continue and add a new dashboard, or select save and close. I'm going to select save and close. And now when we hover over the gear up at the top, or the little speedometer, I should say, you'll notice that the new dashboard is then available. There's a lot of different things you can play around with that dashboard. There's a lot of different options, and we're not going to go through all of them today, but mainly what I want to show is the difference between some areas when you give them more screen real estate. So to do that, looking at our standard dashboard, notice in our jobs panel, we have the number, the company code. If you hover over that, it'll show you the full name, the project it's for, and the name of the job. Notice that in our tasks and to-dos area, we have the title of the task, description as well, if there is one, we hover over that, the company and job that it's for, who assigned it to us, who it is assigned to, depending on your filters, when it's due, the budgeted actual hours, and the status of the task. Since I'm giving more screen real estate to those 2 panels in our other dashboard, we're going to see other information. So for example, in our jobs list, notice that we're now seeing due date. And I can sort by that due date. We're also seeing the status of the job. And it's nice to be able to sort by those different things, especially if you have different statuses that are representative of open jobs. Selecting this will adjust the sort or clear it. Now, if you're ever trying to click sort buttons and it's not working, the reason is that you have probably a multi-sort. So I could sort this, for example, by status. I think they're all just open. And then I'm going to sort it by due date. And I have that in the order that I've specified. The task time summary is just an example of more kind of graphical dashboard tile that I wanted to show. Regardless of which one you pick, you are going to need to adjust the settings, and there are some settings for these. And I recommend playing around with these dashboard tiles, but you need to make sure that you change the settings once you do, because most likely the information is not going to be relevant to you. So for example, when I click on the gear icon for the task time summary, it's asking me, do I want to see this for all staff? Most likely not. In this case, I want to see everything assigned to me. It could be by me or to me. In this case, I'm just going to say to me. And that's just giving me a quick summary of my tasks. You know, I have 7 open, 2 that are due in the next 7 days, and 3 that are late. And this could be for any job in any status. And then I have, you know, of those 7 tasks, of those, in this case, a total of 12 tasks, 7 of them, which represent 88%, are within budget. 1 task is over 80%, and then I don't have any tasks that are currently over budget. There's a lot of different tiles like this. The key point is that you need to make sure that you're adjusting your filters and your settings so that it's showing you the information that you want. And then down below, notice that in our tasks and to-dos, we have significantly more information available to us and some other options because we've given the tasks and to-do section more screen real estate. So for example, instead of just choosing myself or assign to others or by others, I can actually choose a mix of other individuals. Now this does depend on your access levels in the system. So you do need to be able to see other people's tasks in order to be able to access this information. But in this case, I'm just going to choose myself, select that, and I have all of the tasks assigned to myself. And we can see a bit more information. So we can see, you know, our variance hours and also as a percentage, the priority of the task if it's been set. We also have a percentage complete, which we can control ourselves or will automatically be controlled by the system to 100% when you complete the task. It allows you to do things like say, you know, I have 10 hours budgeted for this task, 7 actual, but in reality it's going to take me a lot longer. You know, I'm only about 30% complete the task. So it's most likely going to go over budget. So the key thing is to play around with those, you know, experiment, find the dashboard that works for you, find the information that you like. You can create multiple and jump back and forth between them, you know, adjust the settings and the filters so that you're getting the information that is pertinent to you. Daniel, I'm noticing that you have there's some questions coming in. It looks like you have them all pretty much covered. I'm not seeing anything that really would need to be you know, answered on screen, but I mean, what are your thoughts? Anything that you'd like me to address or that we haven't covered yet so far?
No, everything is looking good. Nothing mission critical at this stage. Yeah, let's keep going.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to take a look back at our standard dashboard here, and we're going to use this for some of the next few items that I want to cover just because it's going to be the most consistent across what everyone is seeing. A lot of what we'll be showing is going to be you know, relatable to, you know, to other dashboards as well. So, you know, looking at our task list, you know, this is one of the key areas where we're going to see everything that's assigned to us. And there's a few different ways that you can work with this and a few different filters that you can apply that may not jump out at you but are really useful. So for example, one of them is changing the assigned status or the assigned filter. One of these is assigned to my role. It's also assigned to me. There's an option to filter this by assigned to me or my role. The default is assigned to me. I recommend changing it to assigned to me or my role. That will reveal other tasks that may not have been specifically assigned to you, but assigned to your role in the system. So, you know, my role in the system in the sandbox is a project manager, and a task appeared at the bottom there that is assigned to the role of project/traffic manager, of which I'm a part, but it's not assigned specifically to me. Changing that filter allows me to see all the tasks assigned to me or my role. So I do recommend doing that. You don't need to do it every time you come to the page. Doing it once it'll stick like that. So, you know, the next time you come back, it'll automatically be with that filter. There's also another option, and that is around the status. And there's something I recommend here as well. The default is open, which is just anything that's assigned or in progress, any task that's currently open and active. But there's a bunch of other filters here as well. And one of them is open and starts before tomorrow. So what that means is that the start date hasn't been hit yet. And I do recommend you adjust your status to open and starts before tomorrow. Now you can kind of go back and forth, because your default of just anything open is going to show you a list of all the tasks assigned to you, even if it's not supposed to start for a couple days or or weeks or whatever it might be. If you have open and starts before tomorrow, you're only going to see tasks, and it looks like all of mine do start before tomorrow, but you're only going to see tasks where the start date has hit. So if you're thinking about this from like a scheduling perspective, if something is not hit its start date yet, you might not want to see it amongst your list of tasks, especially if your list of tasks is going to be long. If you have a lot of things assigned to you, you probably don't want to see the things that you're not supposed to start working on yet. So I do recommend taking a look at that status, open and starts before tomorrow. And then, of course, there's some other options. You could, see everything that's due in the next 7 days or start soon and things like that. But that's a good way to go for your default, open and starts before tomorrow. Another thing that you can do here is you can also put in some filters that are your own, whatever they may be. So, I know that I have, a couple tasks here for a client called North Shore Auto Group. So, especially if my task list is long, this is very helpful. I might want to see, okay, well, I only want to see the tasks that are related to the auto group. So I'm just going to type in the company name of auto group, leave the field, and it limits my list of tasks to just the case of the auto group. So it means that you can quickly put in descriptions, titles, company names, company codes, whatever you want it to be, to limit the information so that you're not seeing such a large list of tasks, especially useful if you have a lot of tasks on the go at any given time. Within your jobs list, you have your My List, and that is essentially all the jobs that you were a contact on. That is something that some companies do and some don't. What I mean by that is some companies don't really assign people to the job level. I typically recommend it. So, especially if they've been, watching the last few webinars around, assigning work, that's probably something that's happening. But that's going to be your My List. So just the jobs you're a contact on, you could, of course, deselect that, and that's going to show you a list of all of the jobs. Now, that list of all the jobs could be quite long, and you may not want to have to go scrolling through it every time. So you are able to add jobs to your My List. If you aren't a contact on any job, then your My List will be blank, but you can go through and choose the jobs that you're working on. So I'm working on this job and this job and this job, therefore they will be in my List. Any ones that are grayed out and not editable, it means that you are a contact on that job and you're part of it, so you can't take it off your list. If it's not grayed out, it means that you've added it to your own list as your own custom selection. Deselect it, and then when you refresh the page or come back the next time, it'll no longer be there. There's some different ways you can manage it from your dashboard, and these things are applicable through the other dashboards as well. So looking at your tasks and to-dos, you might say, okay, well, I'm working on some stuff for my client, Great Atlantic Insurance, and it's really important that I see what all of the other designers are working on at this time and the web developers. So I want to see, in order to do that multi-select, I'm just holding the Shift button or the Command button or the Control button, depending on if you're on a Mac or PC. But I'm selecting multiple people, filtering that. So now I'm seeing everything assigned to myself and the web design team and the designer team. But I'm only interested in information for my client, Great Atlantic Insurance. So I'm going to type in their name or even just part of it. And now and leave the field, and I'm seeing all the tasks related to Great Atlantic Insurance assigned to the people that I selected, organized by due date. And I can then go through and see what all of those tasks are, what's going on with each of them. Now, there's some other ways of managing tasks that's done through finds and searches and customizing the results of those. And it's very, very useful. We're going to take a look at that in just a minute. But the next thing that I want to take a touch on is time tracking. So this is a very, very common, probably the most common action being taken in the system is submitting timesheets. And there's some, yeah, exactly. And there's some easy ways to do it, and there's some not so easy ways to do it. And I want to just point out, some of the ways that you can probably make your life a little bit easier. So the first thing I want to do is just show in the timesheets panel how some of these fields work, because sometimes when I see people using the system, I notice that it's not, it may not be, obvious. It may not be jumping out at you to how to use some of these fields. For example, in your timesheet or anywhere in the system where you see a field with a magnifying glass, it's an intelligent field. So clicking on that will show you a list of everything, but that could be a long list, and it actually only results in 200, the first 200 responses. So if it's longer than that, then you won't even get more than the first 200. The way that this field is meant to be used is by typing in information. So if I know that I'm working on a job, and let's say I'm working on this bike shipping package job, but it's embedded in some list somewhere. I don't want to have to go searching for it, so I'm just going to type in the word bike, type it into the field, and then leave the field. Doesn't matter how you leave the field. Hit tab, click somewhere else. Doesn't matter. If it's the only result, it fills in for you. If there are multiple results, so if I know we're doing a bunch of website jobs, if I type in the word website, I'm going to get a list of all of the website jobs. Choose the one I want, and I can then choose the service that I'm working on. Now, the service dropdown is specific to the job that you selected. So a different job like that, bike shipping package, is going to have a different list of services. Select the service, enter my description, and enter my time. With the time, you can select start, and it'll start counting for you. Now, this isn't going to count if you leave the page. It's a web page. It's a browser-based system, so it's not going to keep that running for you if you leave the page. If you want it to keep running, you do need to choose the timesheet window down below. So select the timesheet window. It'll pop out a timer for you, fill in the information you had, and start counting. I can then move away anywhere I want, and I still have that timer running. And for whatever reason it might be, you can, if you want to, you can run multiple timers at the same time. Whenever you're done, hit stop. It'll fill in the time, 20 seconds, 0.01 of an hour. In this case, let's say it was a full hour. Submit the time, and it adds automatically to my daily timesheet, which I can then edit or delete. That timesheet window is useful, and the how you use that job, that magnifying glass field is useful as well. But a lot of the time, people are tracking from tasks, and if you're tracking from tasks, it can simplify the process a bit. So when you're looking at your tasks and to-dos, this is a list of everything that's assigned to you. You can track directly to the task, but I see people get confused about this a lot. Oftentimes, when a task comes to you, it's going to be in a status of assigned. If it's in a status of assigned, you can't track time to it. It needs to be in progress. Notice that this production task here doesn't have a timer icon. If I move it from assigned to in progress, well, not completed actually, let's cancel that. Move it into progress, the timer icon appears, and I can then select it. So let's say I'm actually working on this one here, select the task, and it fills out my timesheet for me. Job, service, task, description, fills it all in. I just enter my time, update the description if I want, and submit. It adds to my daily total, and also real time to the actuals against that task. So those are some of the methods from the dashboard, but I know that a lot of people prefer to use the weekly view. I know that I do, and most people that I talk to prefer the weekly view because it's fast, it's simple, it's easy. So regardless of where you are in the system, up at the top in the timesheets module, you'll find the weekly view. So if we select this, it opens up a weekly view grid format. Now there's a few different ways that you can use this. I usually like to pop it out, kind of make it a bit smaller. But for example, I can type in any information just like I had before in that magnifying glass. So I can let's say I type in the word bike. Again, it's going to pull up that bike shipping package. Maybe I'm working on some design, and I worked on this for an hour on Tuesday with a description. Leave the field and it saves automatically. So notice how it's showing me the days of the week, and I'm just putting in my time across those days, and then leaving the field that it saves for me. But the task field is present here, and you want to be able to track against the task that you're working on, and it's pretty easy to do so. If you have it, if you're working on something here, you probably know what it is that you're doing. You're probably going to be able to find it, and you can then see if there's a task related to it. So, for example, I have a task assigned to me called dealership signage. Well, it's actually like a design work for the dealership signage. The job's name is dealership signage. I'm going to type in the word signage into the job field, leave the field, and I see a list of all the jobs with that word. Choose the one I want, and then notice that the task field is present. If I didn't have a task assigned to me for this job, this field would not be available. Since it is, I can select that, choose my task, it fills in my service, and then I can put in my time. Say 1.5 hours, with a description. Leave the field that it saves. You get a confirmation that your changes were saved. If I need to make an adjustment, simply make the adjustment, leave the field, and I get a confirmation as well. You can also use the calendar to jump back and forth between previous weeks or future weeks to see what you tracked time to in the past. And the system will remember what you tracked time to last week. So if I go into the next week, everything I already tracked time to will be listed here. So I don't have to go searching for those items. Now, if a task is in an assigned state, you won't find it in the weekly view. So, this printing task here, I would not be able to find that. I'd still be able to track time to this job, but I would not be able to find that task because it's in an assigned state. So you might want to get into the habit of, if you're wanting to track against things right away, just put them into progress as soon as they show up on your dashboard. So that way, nothing is going to be missed if you're looking at the weekly view, and all of your tasks will be there. So, that's some of the kind of the basics for time tracking. One thing I do want to show though is that if you are looking at a dashboard that is not necessarily the default, but has other information on it, so you don't have a timesheet panel, you can still track time. So for example, if I'm looking at my tasks and to-dos here, let's say that I want to look at just the items that are assigned to myself to kind of narrow it down. If I'm looking at my tasks here, I still have my timer icon. I can still select it and then just drop in some time and submit that. So it doesn't matter if you don't have your timesheet panel on your dashboard. You can still use the dashboard to manage and sort your task lists and then quickly track time against them. So the next thing that we're going to take a look at is something that I find is very useful to really any role, but we're going to look at it specific to jobs and tasks, and that is doing custom finds, managing the data that you find there, and then producing reports on the information. And this is, in fact, I was just speaking with an agency today, that had been using the system for a while, and they've been doing some of this, but they actually weren't aware of some of the kind of the extra bonus info that's available to them. So I like to show this stuff.
Well, they must have been surprised.
Oh, for the managed columns, yeah, it was interesting. Kind of showing them some of the information that they could pull that they weren't really aware of before. I saw a couple things come in. I should probably check in with it. I haven't been checking it because it looks like you got a handle on it. But anything that I'm missing, or you think that I should kind of touch on this time before we jump into the next topic?
No, everything's coming along really well. We've had some great questions, and we've been able to answer those. And I'm really looking forward to having you show the find routines, one of my favorite features of Function Point.
Okay, let's take a look. Yeah, so basically up at the top in your modules, most of them work in a pretty consistent way. So you're going to have options to find, view, and add, and you're going to see that for each of them. Now, depending on your access levels, you might not see all the modules, so you might not be working with invoices, so you may not see it there because it's not really something that you need to worry about. But most likely, you're going to have jobs and you're going to have tasks. And the find routines are very useful, and there's some things that you can do that are pretty neat. So for example, I could do a job find, and I could say, well, I want to see all the jobs that are due within a span. Anytime you have a date field, you can always enter a range. So for example, I could say I want to see everything due between today and the next 6 weeks. And if I type in any kind of short form and leave the field, it'll give me those dates. Of course, you could just put your cursor into the field and select the date, and it will fill in the date for you. 3 dots equals a range. So if I put ... and then let's say December 1, it'll fill in December 1 for me, and that gives me a date range. And it'll pick up pretty much anything that you can think of. So I could say 1 month ago until 3 months, 3 weeks, 4 days, and 72 hours from now. And it'll pick up pretty much anything that you can type in there. Most people just type in a date. It's kind of, the short forms, though, are usually pretty useful. In fact, I use the short forms a lot, when I'm searching for information, just so that I don't have to look up, click on the calendar or even look up what the date was. I'll usually just put in, 1 month ago to 1 month from now type of thing, and it'll give you that date range. In this case, let's say from today to 3 months from now, and it'll give us that span. We can choose statuses. We can choose multiple statuses, so I can see everything that that's on hold or open or on hold or in draft. In this case, I'm just going to say just open. The statuses that you see there are going to be specific to your company. So you might have different statuses than I do. You might have more. You might have less, depending on what it is that you track. You can also narrow this down by other information, such as AEs. So I could choose who's the account executive on these jobs. We can narrow it down by companies. And notice that these magnifying glass fields are there as well, so you can type in a short form. And any other information you see here, so whether it's job type or category of how you bill it. Once you've entered the information that you want, actually one thing I like to show is the job contact as well, so I could type in my name, show me everything where I'm a contact on, and then click find, and it'll produce the results of your search. So there are 14 open jobs due in the next 3 months where I am a contact on the job. I'm involved in it in some way. Now this list is going to be, if you haven't customized it yet, is going to default to the information that we're seeing right now. So we're seeing the company, name of the job, the type, status, the due date, and some financial data. Estimated dollars, actual dollars, variance, invoiced, and a comparison between your invoice and your actual. But let's say I want something different. I want to know what the hour information is. So I want to see, what was our budgeted hours versus our actual hours, and how much time we tracked. I also wanted to see descriptions. And I want to sort this by due date, with the description to see all the things that I'm currently working on, when they're due, and how much hours have been tracked against them. What I can do is up at the top right, select Manage Columns. And this allows me to add and subtract information. So I'll take out some info I don't need. I don't need office. I don't need the edit button. Maybe I'm not too worried about the AE, but I want delivery date. I'm going to keep the company name there. Project I don't care about. I'm not too worried about the financials, so I'm going to take that info out. But I do want my hours. I want estimated actual hours, variance. And then let's say I also want the job description. Once you've selected all the columns that you want, you can then organize them and sort them. So down below, I can see all of my columns. I'm going to put job description over by the name. And then I'm going to put estimated hours first, then actual, and then variance. There are also some advanced fields as well. So if I want to see something like, I have delivery date, but I want to know how long it's been open too. So I'm going to choose open date. And then if there's anything else that we want here, we can include other information, sort it as we need, save that. And I now have, a report that I've produced based on the information that's important to me. So I can see, my estimated and actual hours, variance hours, and variance percentage. I've included my description. I'm going to choose, right now it's sorted by company in reverse. I'm going to choose to clear that sort. I'm going to sort it by due date. I'm then going to choose to produce a report. And I could produce a PDF report. And this is a really great example of like a Monday morning report. Where do all of our jobs stand? What are all the jobs that I'm working on? What's their description for what needs to be done? What's the client it's for? What job is it? What type of job? What's the status? When was it open and when is it due? How many hours did we budget? How many have we put in? How much time do we have left? So we have 9.5 hours left in this job, and it's due in a couple days. And then what percentage complete are we as well? So that's a really great example of like a Monday morning kind of where do all of our jobs stand kind of report, specific to myself with description, so I can see exactly what these jobs are representing. You can also choose to export the data, and it'll allow you to export all of the data or just the current view. Typically you want to do current view because it's what you're looking at. So if we select current view, it's going to export that. It opens up into a CSV file. See some of my colleagues are in the hip chat right now. I forgot to close down. Well, one of our colleagues actually just had a baby. So he just had his second daughter. She's only a couple days old. So it looks like they're all chatting about that right now. Yeah, so here we have an export of the information that we're looking at, and we select the current view, so it's pretty streamlined, it's pretty basic. But you could do some neat things in here. I could run some formulas if I wanted to see, what's the average open span of these jobs, and how does that relate to the variance in budget, and some other cool stuff that you could do. So if you're savvy with Excel, customizing the data, exporting it, you do a lot of really cool stuff in there. Maybe create and save the formulas, and then you could export the data and drop them in to those formulas that are saved as a template. So you could create some pretty neat reports that way. Especially if you're savvy enough with Excel to do things like VLOOKUPs, things like that, you could create some pretty cool stuff. The search functionality is the same with the tasks as well, in really every module. So whether you're looking at, say, for example, expenses you've entered, or timesheets you've submitted, or of course your tasks. So I might want to do a task find, and I want to see everything that is assigned to these following individuals, and I can choose as many individuals or roles as I want to in this list. I might say, in this case, I want to see everything that is assigned by me. Just typing in my name narrows a selection. Everything assigned by me. I only want to see tasks for active jobs, so I don't care about tasks for old jobs that aren't active. And I want to see everything that is due, let's say from 3 weeks ago to today. So anything that's overdue as well. And I want to see all the tasks that are assigned or in progress. So I'm just going through and I'm narrowing down, I'm choosing the information that's important to me, and then that is going to customize my search. Any other information I want, I can include, select find, and that produces the results of our search. So I have, in this case, 4 tasks. I was actually expecting a little bit more. I have 4 tasks that are currently on the go that are, in this case, they're all overdue, and I can see who they were assigned to, who they were assigned by, the task. But again, of course, I can customize this. So I can go into manage columns and add and subtract information I need or don't need. So I don't care about the edit button. Perhaps I'm not too worried about the priority right now or the job, mostly the job number, but I don't care about the due time. So I can customize this. And then once I have the information that I want, again, sort it and order it as I want. Put due date over by the status, service over by the task. We'll save that. And actually, one thing I like to point out that I usually find kind of annoying myself is the to column shows initials. And if you're a smaller agency, that's useful. But if you're a larger agency, you might have people with the same initials, or you might not even know what the initials are of TL. Might not jump out at you who that is. So you are able to choose to put in the names of the individuals instead. So I'm going to put in the names. Put that over by the initials. And then I have that full name. What was that, Daniel?
Oh, sorry, I was just saying that, yeah, that's very useful.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes the initials, it just doesn't cut it. So, having the ability to put that full name in there is important. And then, of course, I can choose to produce a PDF of this or export the current view or all the data relating to those tasks. One of the most important things about managing work in the system is updating statuses. It's crucial for the long-term usefulness of the system. If you're not closing things down, if you're not managing those statuses, then it's going to become much less useful moving forward because you have to kind of comb through all the stuff that's old and shouldn't be sitting there. So there's a few things related to that. One of them that's really important is the tasks. So when you are completed a task, or if a task has gone past its due date, it's no longer being worked on. And I see that a lot where tasks were set up and maybe things changed or it didn't need to be done, or the work was done but the time wasn't tracked. Whatever it might be, it's really important that I'm going to use a default dashboard here for a second. But it's really important that in your tasks and to-dos, you're constantly updating this to only represent the work that is actually currently active. So as things are being completed, you're going in and you're choosing to complete those tasks. Once you do, it's going to ask you, are you passing this to someone else? And if so, who are we reassigning it to? If not, we can enter comment, hit submit, and the task is then completed. It's off your dashboard. It's not deleted out of the system. Of course, you can still go and find it, but it is off your dashboard. If you want to see that, you can either go and search for it in the task find, or I can change the status. I can put it to recently completed, for example. Here's my recently completed task, and I'm going to move that back into progress. If you want to see information relating to the task, if you want to see more data about that task, what it's related to, how is the job doing that it's a part of, and maybe put in things like comments or files, communications, things you want to relate back to the individuals that assign them to you or to other team members. Really where you want to start is by selecting the task. So selecting the name of the task is going to bring you into the task's details page, and it's going to show you everything relating to that task. And you're going to see that in some of the tabs along the top. So for example, the breadcrumb. This is a design task as part of a schedule called dealership signage of a job with the same name for a campaign for the dealership for our client, North Shore Auto Group. This one has a big breadcrumb, but it allows you to see what it's related to. I can see the description, and I can see some other information as well. So for example, comments that have been entered, I can come in here and add a comment, and depending on your alert settings, that could send an alert to others, including the person that assigned it to you. So our comments in there, we can edit that, we can add in new comments. We can see a history if it's been passed around, so who assigned it to who and when, and if it's been moved to others. We can see the timesheets that have been entered against this task. We can also upload files as well. You can create a folder structure and upload files into the task. So your completed designs or rough drafts you want to have others in review, including the person who assigned the task to you. So you can come in here and upload files into the task. And we can also see where the task fits in the schedule. So this is the schedule for the job, and we can see everything that's going on for that job in our schedule. If we were to navigate to the schedule, so here we can see our schedule details button. If we select that, we can navigate to that schedule, letting us know there's some enhancements that have been launched pretty recently, so that's actually pretty cool. We're seeing that there. And then from here, we can say, for example, produce a Gantt view of that schedule. So here we have, an overall understanding of where, this job is and how each of the tasks connect to each other. So here we are today. We can see that we have all of our tasks that have passed. Most of them are completed. And then we have our design and production stage where we have some of the in-progress tasks. So here's the task that we were just looking at and where it fits in the schedule. So one of the neat things you can do, one of the the recent changes to this is you can look at this from a monthly view or a weekly view. So looking at it from a monthly view allows you to see a larger schedule altogether. Looking at it from a weekly view gives you better understanding of a kind of a day-to-day activity. So I noticed that there was a question that came in. Daniel, so Checkin, there was a question around notifications. What do you think that we should take a look? I think we might have time to take a look at that on screen. What are your thoughts?
Well, you've just answered my question. I was just about to ask you if we can squeeze that one in, but yeah, that would be great.
Okay, perfect. Let's take a look. Yeah, so just kind of capping off this section here. Coming into the task is going to allow you to go deeper and deeper into the job, including seeing things like the schedule as a whole and other actions that are going on. At any time, you can always use the breadcrumb to navigate to different areas. So I could jump back to the job, and it'll bring me to the jobs details page, and you might see different information here depending on your role at the agency. But that includes a list of our tasks that are on the go. With regards to alerts, that was a good question about alerts. Oftentimes the alerts are set up by the systems administrator, and you may or may not have the ability to customize your own alerts. So, if you kind of follow along what I'm about to do and you don't find the ability to do that, you're going to want to talk to your FP Prime, your systems administrator within your agency, and ask them to either give you access to that section or to customize your alerts for you. But if you want to set up your own alerts, the way that you're going to want to do that is by going into your own contact details page. So you're going to want to find yourself, find contact. I'm going to enter my own name. And then here I am here, select myself, and it's going to bring me into my contact details page. So this is all the information relating to me. And from here, so I can see, basic info, notes that have gone in, if there's skill information, and then my subscriptions. Now, these subscriptions are your alerts. They are the alerts that you are subscribed to. And what this is going to do is show you each module of the system that alerts are related to, and beneath it, the different alerts that you can get. You can then choose to receive a system alert and or an email. A system alert goes to this section up at the top here. You'll see a little red number pop up as you get alerts, and you can see those alerts coming in. The email, of course, sends it to whatever email you have in the system applied to yourself, most likely just whatever your work email is. Now, you can load up a alert subscription set. So if there's a specific set that your company's created of all the alerts that say a designer should receive, actually it looks like that one's blank, then you can load up an alert set. But I'm going to show you some of the specific alerts that I recommend just to make your lives easier. It's pretty straightforward, but sometimes people can give themselves a bit more, a bit less than what they actually need. So I'm going to give some suggestions. The first thing that I recommend doing is looking at the task alerts. So under your subscriptions, under your own name, go down to the bottom and look at task. And there's a few things that I recommend choosing. One is task assigned. So it's a new task assigned. So I'm going to choose to receive an email about that, but only if the task is assigned to me. So if a new task is assigned, but it's not assigned to me, assigned to someone else, I don't care. I don't want to receive an email about that. I'm only going to receive an email if the task is assigned to me and or to my role. There's also some other ones. So for example, task in progress. I don't really need that unless I'm assigning tasks to others, and even then it's a bit much. But if you want to know if a person puts a task into progress, you can say, well, I want to receive an alert, but only if the task is assigned by me. So if somebody assigns a task to somebody else and they start working on it, I don't need to be notified about that. But if it's a task that I assign to them, then I do. So you can set that up if you're assigning tasks to others. You could also see tasks being completed, tasks being passed. So that's another good example of if a task is assigned to me, if it gets passed from another individual, then I might want to receive an alert. Although the original task assigned alert, I believe, would alert you anyways. But this would give you a double alert if it happens to be passed from someone else, and you want to know that it was a passed item. And then there's also some alerts around timing. You want to make sure that you don't go overboard here. The last thing you want is to receive like 10 emails a day from the system, because it just becomes like white noise. You're not going to look at it. You're just going to ignore it. It's not going to be useful to you. So you want to make sure that you only choose the items that are going to be really, really important to you. So things like tasks starting today, if you want to know if a task hits a start date, then you can have the system email you. But if your dashboard filters are set up correctly and you're logged into the system on a daily basis, you're going to see your task list anyways. Might not be necessary to you, but of course, if you feel that's important, you might want to select that. We then get into the due dates. You have due tomorrow, due today, or overdue. Choose one. You probably don't want to choose three. Then you're going to get 3 emails in the span of 3 days about the same task. So I would recommend due tomorrow. If the task is assigned to me, or maybe even by me, in fact, we'll leave tomorrow from by me, but if the task is assigned to me, it's due tomorrow, send me an email. That way I know if I'm about to go overdue on something, I can be made aware of it. Whereas if the task is due today, I want an email if it was assigned by me. So these are pretty light. You'll notice what I'm suggesting here is that you have an alert for a new task being assigned to you and a task hitting its due date tomorrow. That's really kind of a good set. And then there's also, of course, a lot of other options around task comments and then everything else. So jobs, status is changing, external expenses being entered, estimates being entered or approved. There's a lot of different alerts here. You really want to make sure that you do not go overboard, because you only want to be receiving alerts for things that are important to you. Daniel, any questions that came up that you think we should address?
Yeah, we do have a question here with regards to the checkboxes. Just wanted to get some clarification if you can actually select multiple checkboxes under each of those categories, or if you're only restricted to one.
So are you referring to like these categories here? Like, can you choose like multiple like this way?
I believe under the job contacts, only if I'm a job contact or if the task is assigned to me. So as you have those two there, yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, yeah. So so relating to, this is kind of like stacking filters. So if you look at it like this, if a new task is assigned and it's assigned to me, the system will email me. If it's assigned to my role, the system will email me. But I can like stack this alert only if I'm a job contact. That's almost like limiting it. So you're kind of like double filtering it. You don't really want to combine these, because basically what you're saying is, okay, if the task is assigned to me, but I'm not a job contact, don't email me. So you're almost like double filtering yourself. You're double filtering yourself out of receiving an alert. I'm gonna talk about what this means in just a second. I know we only have about 5 minutes left. I'm going to talk about what that means so there's no confusion. But so you don't really want to double that up. But a good example of how this is applicable is, if I'm like a project manager and I'm a contact on, if I'm a project manager, I'm going to be a contact on all of the jobs that I'm working on, and I might want to be notified anytime any new task is assigned where I'm a job contact, because if I'm the one assigning it, then I'm not going to receive an alert. But if someone else assigns it and I'm a contact, I might want to know about that. Another good example is task completed. I might not be the one assigning the tasks. My team might be assigning them to each other. But if I'm a contact on the job and I'm a project manager, I might want to receive an alert when a task is completed. So that's where that's kind of more applicable. Now, the job contact, where that actually comes into play is if you're looking at a job, you're going to have your contacts on that job, and you're going to see all the people that are contacts on that job. So internally, for this job, we have myself and Olivia, and then we have Paul at our client. Now, the contacts can be selected when the job is being opened, but they can also be added at any time. So you can manage your job contacts and add as many people to the job as you wish, and that will then affect it showing up on their dashboard, and also whether or not it is showing up in their My List. Is that, Dave, do you think is that making sense? Do you think that would answer that question?
Yeah, sorry about that. I had myself on mute. Yeah, I believe that's answered that. Thank you.
No problem. Any other last ones you think we should touch on before we hop off here?
No, we should be good. I think
Sounds
we
good.
should be good. Just answering one last question myself, and yeah, I think it's been great, very insightful. Cheers, Matt.
Oh, no problem. Thanks. Yes, I appreciate everyone's time today. This stuff is, a lot of it's pretty obvious, but some of it may not jump out at you. Like the custom finds are so useful. You knowing how to do that and being able to customize the information there and export it really gives you a lot of power to do a lot of cool stuff. Outside of the system and inside of the system. So I highly recommend checking that out. There's a lot of really cool custom dashboard tiles, more than we could cover in a webinar. So I recommend, playing around with those because there's a lot of, neat ways that you can look at data. And then, also again, I can't stress enough how important it is to be adjusting statuses. So, if you have tasks on your dashboard, you really want to clean those up on a really regular basis. Also, jobs. If you're responsible for updating job statuses, that's even more important. It's really crucial that if you're the person that is responsible for telling the system and therefore then your team that, hey, this job is done, shall no longer be active, you need to be doing that on a really regular basis. Because the first thing that we do when we look at a new system, look at an existing client system, the very first thing that I do is I do a job find, and I select Find Active, and I take a look at what I get there. And if the resulting list looks like an accurate representation of the agency's current work, then I know they're in good shape, and everything else is kind of secondary from that. If the list that I find has stuff from like 2013, because jobs aren't being closed, then I know that there's a bit of an issue there. So those statuses are so important, both task and job, to be updating regularly. Please make sure that you're kind of doing that once a week or so that things are being cleaned up and that your system is clean and can provide you with good information. Yeah, I think that brings us to our time. So, we're going to be jumping back into the next webinar cycle in 3 weeks' time. That's tentatively scheduled for the 17th of August. Could change, most likely won't though. So, if you have any suggestions or requests for the next schedule or the next webinar cycle, please do email us at success@functionpoint.com. Again, that's success@functionpoint.com. I would love to hear any kind of suggestions that you have on other topics. And yeah, Daniel, anything else that you want to add or mention today?
No, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, no, I think we're all good. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, again, I appreciate all of your time. Have yourself a great Wednesday. We'll see you all in 3 weeks, same bad time, same bad channel. Hopefully everyone's having a decent summer, and wherever you may be, I hope that the weather's, hope the sun is shining for you. So thanks, everyone. Have yourself a great rest of your Wednesday. Cheers.